Okay, good morning. This is Saturday morning. Here's this picture of the morning. That's the chess set from my family back on father's side back to the 19th century, and that's a position from the two knights defense, the Fritz variation where white gets mated. One of my favorite openings, anyway. But let's get to the subject at hand, which is, again, the debt ceiling and particularly Social Security, because on May the 10th, or May the 20th, I think it was, May the 20th, I kind of stumbled, because I developed a coughing spell at the end, I kind of stumbled talking about the Social Security. We all know that the X date seems to be June the 5th or maybe June the 6th. But first of all, I want to say that the Republican insistence that we not do a clean, debt ceiling increase, but without conditions, but that we tie it to spending, in a way is admitting that we're broke now, and that we have to consider the possibility that we can't pay for everything we've committed ourselves to, and American people individually, and particularly within their own family or social structures, have to learn to take care of themselves and not depend on the government, and may have to make sacrifices and change their own priorities. Everyone as an individual pays for this. It's not just the government. Everybody is involved as an individual. But I want to talk about what would happen if we missed the June 14th. So my Social Security payment is due on June the 14th. And I'm in that second tier. I think probably it will be made. It probably would be made, because I'm reasonably confident that Treasury really can prioritize the payments. I've read in some places that it could actually borrow from the Social Security Trust Fund and then pay it back, as long as it's somewhere down the road. Eventually, there was a deal. Now, it's conceivable there could be no deal at all. If the ultra far right in Congress actually prevailed. But the 14th Amendment says that even if you can't use it to avoid a default, it still says that the debt still remains. So you can't just declare, for example, Social Security for people who maybe don't need it, who have enough income that we're never going to pay you again. You'd actually have to pass a law saying that. But the opinion Flemming versus Nestor, back in 1960, I don't know why the Communist Party is showing up on my screen from Flemming versus Nestor, but anyway, that was the opinion. That's the Wikipedia page, and what that essentially said was that Social Security benefits from FICA taxes that you pay when you're working, and that your employer also matches, those do not create an annuity for you. What you get when you collect Social Security is a welfare benefit, because you're presumed to need it. You didn't earn it by working, and what you were doing was you were being taxed and sharing wealth with so as to pay for the retirement of older people. And then when you were old, people would give you the courtesy of doing the same thing. Well, what happened? We stopped having as many children, a degree of demographic winter and so forth, and myself included, as we became a lot more individualistic. We don't have as many children, we don't have as many workers to pay. So it's not guaranteed that everyone who thought they would get even and are collecting benefits now would necessarily collect them forever. Congress could take that benefit away, but would have to pass a law to do so. But that would only affect the stability of the Social Security Trust Fund. It wouldn't affect the overall general Treasury Fund and the debt ceiling, unless Congress really went way out of its way to do some gymnastics that I don't think it's even thought about. There is something tricky, though, about this. Back in 2012, my mother passed away in December of 2010, Back in 2012, early 2012, myself and the lawyer, we changed my trust to a grantor trust, which includes a trust, a sort of rewritten trust in my mother's name, the MDB trust, which is about 60% of the assets, and then a trust in my name, and then my own funds that are private, that are just my own as an individual. Now, for example, the money that is in my own name only, that does not include my mother's name, I can pretty much use as I want. I can use to invest in trying to make a movie of my book, for example, but I can't use the money in my mother's name. That's supposed to go to beneficiaries, and particularly some of the beneficiaries, or one of them in particular, is a big charity. So that would be taking money away from people in need just to satisfy my own ego to make a movie, when my books didn't really pay for themselves in terms of sales, which is another point we could get into. And I didn't really pay my own way when I was living with Mother after the layoff and the end of the retirement at the end of 2001. I didn't really keep paying my own way, and that's something we can talk about another time. But that sort of looks bad for me right now. Theoretically, now, when you make a grantor trust, your Social Security income is included, and what might not have been taxed at all had it stayed just in my own name, when it's grouped with the other stuff and in your mother's name, it raises the adjusted gross income so that you wind up paying up to 85% on the Social Security. So it might be better to split it or keep it split apart, so that the overall income level was low, particularly Social Security. That's one thing. There would be in the back of my mind, there would be a possibility that Congress could get the idea down the road. Well, let's stop paying benefits to people who haven't earned enough that they have to pay taxes on their Social Security. Let's just stop paying them. We could pass a law stopping that anytime they wanted. Flemming versus Nestor says that. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. But it would also mean possibly that if the Social Security benefit is actually viewed as, a welfare benefit, that I really should go into my beneficiaries directly now, because if it's a welfare benefit, in theory, I don't, quote, need it. I may need it for my own ego, the books and making a movie and everything, but I don't need it to survive. So it might be that you could make the case that the beneficiaries are entitled to take it now. I'm not promising to do anything like that, but it's conceivable that this could be an outcome of the debt ceiling debate, although I don't know if anybody's Congress is smart enough to figure that out. But yeah, I'm very concerned about the attitude of, I think the conservative Republicans started this by saying we can stop paying, we can stiff people now, but you don't have the money, and you better get used to it. You better change the way you live now, because we're not going to keep paying you, because we have the power not to keep it ourselves. They're kind of acting a little bit like they want to run a dictatorship, but you better adjust to it. That seems to be the attitude that they're taking. So it's very disturbing. But anyway, I wanted to update that other post from May 20th. So that is what I was going to say this morning, and thank you for listening.